So we're going to do solving percent problems today, and we're going to use fractions because not only is it a good review, but it's actually, I think, easier and quicker. So to find the percent of a number, write the percent as a fraction and multiply it by the number. So the confusing part about this is it says to find the percent of a number, but your actual answer is not going to be a percent. It's going to be a fraction or a whole number. So basically where you would use this in the real world is if you're out tipping at a restaurant. So say you had a bill and your bill was $40 and you wanted to leave a 16% tip. This is where you would do that type of math to figure out what the tip would be. So the answer would be money, not a percent. Or if you go shopping and you buy a sweater for $30 and it's 15% off, this is the math you would use to figure out how much money you get to save. So this is actually a really useful skill. So I'm going to do the first one using these steps. It says write the percent as a fraction. We already know how to do that. To write a percent as a fraction, you write it over 100. So 16 over 100. Hopefully you remember what of means. Of always means multiply. And then 40, so remember if this is going back a couple months, if you're multiplying a fraction and by a whole number, to make your whole number a fraction, you just write it over 1. It's actually easier to do these if you don't simplify the 1600s. So now I want to cross cancel. So I can actually divide these both by 20. So 40 divided by 20 is 2. 100 divided by 20 is 5. Now I'm going to multiply across. So 16 times 2 is 32. And 5 times 1 is 5. So this is in simplest form. You can leave it in proper or you can make it mixed. When we do ones involving money, it's going to make more sense to make it a mixed number. So I'm just going to do that. So 5 goes into 32. 6 whole times, which is 30, and I'd have 2 left over. Denominator stays the same. So that means 6 2/5 is not a percent, but that is what 16% of 40 is. Okay? Another way to do this is you can do a chart. So I'm going to pause this for a second so I can erase and clean it up a little bit, and then I'll show you how to do it with a chart. So here's another way, like I said, you could do it with a chart. So we're going to do this problem. 40% of 120 is what number? So my part to whole ratio with the table will give you the same answer. So I have 40%, which is 40 over 100. And my goal is I'm trying to figure out what part of 120 this is. So 120 would go on the bottom because that's our whole. So I'm going to simplify this just a tiny bit. I'm going to divide these both by 10. So 40 divided by 10 is 4. And then 100 divided by 10 is 10. Now I can use this kind of like a middleman to solve for what I want. So my goal was to get to 120. So 10 times 12 is 120. So I'm going to do 4 times 12, which is 48. So my answer would be 48. So 40% of 120 is 48. So that's how you could do it with a chart. I personally like the multiplying the percent by the fraction way better. But we'll do some of those in a little bit. The next part. So yesterday we did figuring out like sports statistics, like if you got a certain amount of shots out of a total number, we were trying to figure out what percent that would be. Now we're kind of doing the complete opposite. Now it's telling us the percent and it wants us to figure out of what number would give you that. So when you would use this would be if you're trying to figure out how many shots or something you have to do to get a specific average, which in some cases might be the make or break it for your career if you're in sports. So this says find the missing number in a percent problem. Divide the number by the given percent, written as a fraction. So the number they give us is 150. So I'm going to write 150 over 1, written as a fraction. Okay, so you divide the number by the given percent. So I'm going to divide it by the percent, written as a fraction as well. So 30% is 30 over 100. So now we're going back several months of dividing fractions. So hopefully you remember the 3 words that help you set up a division. Keep, change, flip. So I'm keeping 150 over 1. I'm changing the division to a times. I'm flipping over the second fraction. So it'll be 100 over 30. Now I want to cross cancel if I can. I can actually divide these both by 30. So 30 divided by 30 is 1. And then 150 divided by 30 is 5. And now I can multiply across. 5 times 100 is 500, and then 1 times 1 is 1. So 500 over 1 is just 500. So that means 30% of 500 is 150. So if you're trying to figure out what number this would be, so that 30% of it would give you 150. If you're doing like free throws or something, that means you'd have to get 150 baskets out of 500 shots. That would give you your 30%. So if they were telling you like you have to have a minimum of 30% of your shooting, then that's how many you would have to get you'd have to get 150 shots out of 500. Okay, so I'm going to erase this and we'll try some others on the big ideas.